you, not just because she is the first African-American woman to hold the position of chair of the Oklahoma Democratic Party. Instead, because she is a remarkable leader, a teacher as she goes, and someone that we can all look up to. It's my privilege to introduce you now to the chair of the Oklahoma Democratic Party, Alicia Andrews.
Hello and good morning. My name is Alicia Andrews, and as Scott said, I am the chair of the Oklahoma Democratic Party. I am honored to share the stage this morning with a congressional candidate, Danielle Lanier, U.S. candidate, Abby Broyles, Kay Milan, and the rest of the Moms and Man Action folks, Demaria Monday of Still She Rises, representatives from Black Lives Matter, and other concerned, deeply committed Oklahomans. Juneteenth is a commemoration of the word of slavery finally making it to Texas and free statehood Oklahoma. I just needed to repeat that since the president is convinced that no one knew that before he decided to come here on that day. I assure you, millions of Black Americans know very well what Juneteenth is. To give your audience a little more in-depth background, I am pleased to introduce Minister Tawan Jones.
My name is Tawan Jones. I'm the senior pastor of the Timothy Missionary Baptist Church located in Tulsa, Oklahoma, on the north side of the city. Much appreciation and praise unto God, our Father in heaven, for his spirit, guidance, and protection from above. Thank you to the Oklahoma Democratic Party and State Chair Alicia Andrews for her leadership and commitment to the people of Oklahoma. Juneteenth is the oldest nationally celebrated commemoration of the ending of slavery in the United States. The history of slavery provides vital context to contemporary conversations and counters the distorted facts of internet hoaxes and poor moral practices of culturally biased people. Slaves were bought and sold just like we sell cars and cattle today. They were gifted, deeded, and mortgaged the same way we sell houses today. They were itemized and insured the same way we manage our assets and protect our values. Enslaved people were valued at every stage of their lives, from before birth until after death. Slavery was an extremely diverse economic institution, one that extracted unpaid labor out of people in a variety of settings, from small single crop farms and plantations to urban universities. This diversity was also reflected in their prices. Enslaved people understood they were treated as commodities. Slavery was morally wrong, but there was one big problem. It was sanctioned by the highest law in the land, the Constitution. The nation's founding fathers did not explicitly write the word slavery in the Constitution, but they did include key clauses protecting the institution, such as a fugitive slave clause and the 3/5 clause, which allowed southern states to count slaves for the purpose of representation in the federal government. President Abraham Lincoln believed blacks had the right to improve their condition in society and to enjoy the fruits of their labor. In this way, they were equal to white men, and for this reason, slavery was inherently unjust. This helped lead to the draft of the preliminary Emancipation Proclamation in August of 1862 and the final proclamation issued in January 1863. Because of the Civil War, it would be more than 2 years before the Emancipation Proclamation could take effect in all the states. History has recorded that on June 19th, 1865, news that the war had ended and that the enslaved were now free reached all black people who were still slaves in Texas. Forces were finally strong enough to influence and overcome this resistance. Juneteenth communicates the message of liberty and love, which only the enemies of God tried to destroy. The civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s yielded both positive and negative results for Juneteenth celebrations. Juneteenth celebrates African American freedom and achievement while encouraging continuous self-development and respect of all cultures. As it takes on a more national, symbolic, and even global perspective, the events of 1865 in Texas are not forgotten. This is the spirit of Juneteenth, and by the grace of God, may its spirit continue to live on. I turn it now back into the hands of our chair.
Where we stand today is just 2 right turns from historic Black Wall Street. The president will be 2 left turns from it tomorrow. His original plan to be here on Juneteenth, just 2 wrong turns from Black Wall Street, in the middle of one of our nation's longest periods of race-based civil unrest, coupled with the fact that he has finally admitted that he was unaware of what Juneteenth means, reminds African Americans that we are not part of his consideration set. Indeed, if the president and his supporters had their way, we wouldn't even be part of America. Juneteenth is about freedom. That word is one that most Americans take for granted. I assure you, though, we cannot be free until we are all free. Freedom is not just about no more chattel slavery. Freedom is about economic freedom. It's about freedom from racial injustice, freedom from economic disparity, freedom from systematic oppression, freedom from business as usual marginalization, freedom to truly pursue happiness. In Trump's America, this level of freedom is not available to all Oklahomans, or all Americans, as a matter of fact. Originally, the president was coming to Oklahoma because of our COVID-19 numbers. Then he said he was coming here for the celebration. Then he said he didn't know about Juneteenth, but he thinks it's great. Which is it? Our COVID-19 numbers are not great. As a matter of fact, we hit a record high numbers yesterday. And frankly, no one wants him to celebrate Juneteenth. Juneteenth also marks the fact that slaveholders benefited for 2.5 more years of free labor. We get to celebrate the end of chattel slavery. The celebration is not for the oppressor. Non-African Americans are welcome to commemorate this very important occasion, but they must do so in a manner of respect, support, and appreciation for the plight of Black people in this country. I hate to give the embarrassing circus down the street very much attention, but he has a knack of taking the spotlight away from what truly matters for a vast majority of Americans. That's why today, the Oklahoma Democratic Party is focused on our efforts of unity. Indeed, I stand before you today with a loud call for unity. You know, representation matters. The Oklahoma Democratic Party is proud of the candidates that we have running for national offices this year. Our candidates include African Americans, Native Americans, transgendered citizens. We have a first-generation American, a disabled American, a Navy veteran, an Army veteran, and a former educator. We have a rancher and even a couple of attorneys. These candidates epitomize the cross-section of Oklahomans, indeed, Americans, that our elected officials are called to represent. Our candidates are fighting for greater access to affordable health care, criminal justice reform, educational opportunities that are afforded not only to special classes of people. These are Oklahoma issues. Our candidates stand ready to fight for all of Oklahoma. Because they come from varied backgrounds, they are better equipped to represent Oklahoma and ensure that Oklahoma issues don't get overlooked on the national stage. This is a far greater goal, a vastly different agenda than what will be represented down the street. At a time when we have a president who is endlessly committed to dividing our country, our state, and our nation, we are focused on the far more righteous goal of unity. In fact, it's more than a goal. It is our mission to bring people together. Those who work 3 jobs to pay rent and those who live in mansions. Those who have easy access to quality education and those who do not. Those who are Black and brown and white and every shade in between. This administration's ideals are rooted firmly in the past, a very sad past. Today, we lift up our ideals of a united country where every citizen counts, where every life matters, and where every child has an opportunity and every citizen can live out their golden years without fear. The civil unrest that our nation is facing today is a visible sign, a true reckoning of a divided nation. A nation where the line between the haves and the have-nots is clearly demarcated. A nation where the president called the death of Rayshard Brooks a very bad situation. Another man is dead at the hands of those who are charged with protecting and serving. Our efforts are to rid this country of so-called leaders who do everything but lead. We will send folks to Washington who will fight for the policies that ensure that we all have a chance of pursuing happiness. We will not rest until the notion of liberty and justice for all becomes a reality to our generation and for those yet to come. Black Lives Matter. Say their names. Rest in power, Rayshard Brooks, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Terrence Crutcher, Joshua Gray, and seemingly countless ends of lives who, to many, did not matter, but they do to us. Say their names. Thank you. So I will open it up to questions, if you have any questions.
The mood seems very familiar to when Martin Luther King Day became a holiday. Do you believe Juneteenth needs to be a national holiday?
Yes.
So the question was, do I believe that Juneteenth needs to be a national holiday? Absolutely. The Oklahoma Democratic Party is actually recognizing it today. So the Stavo ODP is taking a day of holiday, and I lead how I believe we should be led.
Did this rally flub kind of elevate this to the national level? Or?
It's actually, the holiday for the Oklahoma Democratic Party is actually in our collective bargaining agreement that was drawn up 2.5 years ago. So all of this circus did not preempt that, did not make
I meant
that
the
happen.
national mindset. Did this kind of stir the
I
pot?
know
a
our
little bit?
company announced yesterday, we're gonna start celebrating Juneteenth.
Yeah. You've got Fortune 500 companies that have made the decision last minute to do that. Did this incident bring that to the surface?
So the combination of the racial civil unrest that's happening all over our nation, and I will say all over the world, in addition to the president's slight against Tulsa on Juneteenth, has absolutely elevated the recognition of Juneteenth.
Why do you think the president chose to come here? He doesn't really need to campaign in Oklahoma. I mean.
So he didn't consult with me.
Right.
So I believe that he chose Tulsa. He says he chose Tulsa because we opened up early and that we were on our way towards flattening our curve. And if that's the case, I am troubled that his advisors weren't able to convince him, after looking at the numbers, that this is not the right time or the right place for this rally.
So what are you telling folks who might plan to demonstrate or go downtown? Are you telling them to stay away from downtown? How are you, what sort of message do you have for folks who aren't happy about it?
Well, yeah, obviously, when I'm asked by fellow citizens and other Democrats, when I'm asked, you know, are we going to protest? Are we going to go down and stand at the BOK Center? My answer is absolutely no. One, it's Juneteenth, and we need to be focused on celebrating Juneteenth. Secondly, I don't see any good coming of that, and so I don't want to give that any additional energy. We need to be focusing on celebrating Juneteenth, and then with regards to politics, we need to be focusing on the election that's on June 30th.
So just to clarify, you are encouraging people to not somewhat counter protest today and tomorrow?
I am. Now, I only have so much influence, and we have the First Amendment, and so there are folks who plan to do counter protests. I won't interfere with those protests, but I am going to encourage everybody to be as safe as they possibly can, not just being aware of their surroundings, but wearing their masks and carrying their hand sanitizer and socially distancing, but those are all important because, I mean, we had a record number of COVID cases yesterday.
Does the Democratic Party believe we need to go from phase 3 back to phase 2 or even phase 1 in our reopening plan because of the way the numbers have been?
I didn't hear the question, so I'm gonna ask, I'm sorry.
So we've had the phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 reopenings. Do you believe with our trajectory of numbers, we need to go back to phase 2 or phase 1?
So I'm not a healthcare professional. So, but what I am encouraging people to do is to reach out to Dr. Dart and other health departments and to give us guidance. If it were me and if I were in a position where I could affect that, I think that we're not ready for stage 3, right? Our numbers are spiking and we need to take a step back and evaluate what we need to do. That's just my personal opinion.
So what do you think about the leadership of the city, especially with Mayor G.T. Bynum, when the venue, which was chosen, the BOK Center, said that if they were asked, they would have actually closed this down to the president's visit? What do you think of the mayor's stance and what he's done so far during this time?
So I am disappointed in the mixed messaging that's being put forth. I understand this is just through rumor mill that our mayor was not considered. He wasn't consulted about the visit to Tulsa, Governor Trump's mayor. However, there have been many pleas, many calls, many organized conversations with the mayor asking him to not necessarily eliminate this visit, but postpone it to a time when it's better safety. There's a chance for better safety. So I will say I'm disappointed in the mixed messaging, because if the BOK Center said that they would have followed his lead, I think he should have led.
And do you think, as a follow-up, do you think that if the numbers begin to spike extremely after this visit, do you think that he holds some fault in the fact that he did not act or that he did not do something in order to prevent it?
I'm not a fan of fault. I'm not a fan of fault, but I do suspect our numbers will spike, and I think everybody has personal responsibility as well. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Is the Democratic message starting to catch on in Oklahoma? Are you seeing increased interest? Are the phones ringing? Are people registering as Democrats? I'm curious what the temperature is as we start moving into summer and getting closer to primary.
I love that question because the answer is yes. Yes, our phones are ringing off the hook. People are finding me all over the place. People are calling, people are donating. okdemocrats.org/donate. People are donating. People are asking how they can help. People are getting more engaged.
But it's fair to say that it wasn't enough that he moved the rally from today to tomorrow.
It absolutely was not. He moved the rally. So I've already expressed my COVID concerns, but he moved the rally, and personally, and as the chair of the party, I feel like it was so that he did not have to deal with the conversation about the civil unrest. He didn't have to deal with the conversation about African Americans. He didn't have to deal, he thinks that just by pushing it off our day, that he's being respectful, but actually it smacks of disrespect.
So, if he does talk about Greenwood and Black Wall Street, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I'd rather he didn't. He just admitted that he doesn't know anything about it. And so before he goes talking about something he doesn't know about, I'd rather him take a moment, learn a little bit more, get some advisors. That's not the job of the Secret Service. Get some real advisors and learn about the issues. And he's actually had 3.5 years.
You are the Oklahoma Democratic Party. You have a seat in Congress for the first time in a long time. Is that a dogfight right now to keep that?
It absolutely is. Congresswoman Horn is the #1 targeted seat in the nation, and we are working night and day trying to secure that office, trying to keep that seat. And it is a dogfight. They trotted out everybody registered as a Republican they could find in CD5 to run against her, and they're not all fighting fair. They're not all keeping their fight based in honesty.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for being here. If you have any follow-up questions, Sarah Andrews will be here for a bit longer. We'll also be available tomorrow, today and tomorrow. So if we can be of any further help, clarifying anything, please let us know. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.